The new GM survey is out. Some high expectations for the Celtics, some love for Brad Stevens, and I don't know, some weirdness for Jayson Tatum. Let's talk about it right now. It's the Locked On Celtics podcast. Let's go.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, Keith John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back. Thank you for making this Locked On Celtics podcast part of your daily routine. I'm here for you Monday through Friday, so make sure you're subscribed. The podcast is free. The podcast is fresh. The podcast is available everywhere you get your podcast, even on YouTube. Hop into the comments section there. Let me know what you're thinking. You everydayers, love you. Make sure that you're spreading the word. Let people know that they should be coming here every Monday through Friday. Bonus podcasts on game nights, Fridays, and Saturdays. I'm John Karalis. Former pro, now I'm a beat writer covering the team. I know who I am. Covering the team for Boston Sports Journal. Today we're talking about the annual NBA GM survey, where all the front offices are sent a survey. All the GMs, I'm making air quotes on the YouTube page because I'm pretty sure all the GMs aren't the ones filling them out. But whatever, all the front offices do. And you get a series of interesting answers. It's all on NBA.com. Lots of Celtics love. I'm going to be talking about Brad Stevens later on and his moves. Jayson Tatum, weirdness. I'm going to say it's weirdness when it comes to Jayson Tatum. But I'm going to start with the team expectations. And I'm going to start by letting you know that our friends at Jase Medical are sponsoring today's show. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case. It provides you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's Jase medical.com. Obviously, lots of love for the Celtics is, they are considered one of the best teams in the league. Post-Drew Holiday trade, that is something that has only gotten a little bit more solid. So let's just start here with the team expectations. The GM survey has Boston and Denver tied 33% apiece of the front offices think Boston and Denver are going to win the NBA Finals. So a Celtics-Nuggets Finals apparently is in order. The previous champion generally gets a fair amount of love when they're running it back. When you have a former MVP and probably should have been a 3-time MVP there, that's something that I think is not a surprise. The Celtics, not a surprise up there. Milwaukee right behind them at 23%. Boston is 53% of the GMs think Boston's going to win the East. 43% think it's going to be Milwaukee. And then that number flips. It's 1-2. They either put Boston, Milwaukee, or they went Milwaukee, Boston. So that's where the expectations are there. The GM survey has Boston with the expected fourth most efficient offense. Which team will have the league's most efficient offense this season? Celtics are fourth. Which will be the best defensive team in the league? Celtics at 47%. Funny that this is the perception, because I would have flipped that. I would have had Boston. If you told me one of these answers is 47% and the other one is 10%, I would have bet my life that 47% of people would have said, of front offices would have said the Celtics would have had the more efficient offense and they would have been fourth when it comes to defense. But they lost Marcus Smart. They picked up Drew Holiday. They lost Robert Williams. They picked up Porzingis. Apparently the other losses, Grant Williams, who else did they give up? But the losses don't add up to a whole lot. Malcolm Brogdon. Sorry, Malcolm. Here quickly, gone quickly, forgotten quickly. That's on me. But apparently those losses don't really matter much. Although last year, 69% of the GMs voted Boston to have the best defensive team. So that's dropped significantly, but still tops in the league. Second was Memphis at 17%. I think just looking at the first couple of preseason games, the offense is way ahead of the defense. So these might be the expectations. And also keep in mind that these are preseason expectations. Last year, 43% of the GMs picked Milwaukee to win the NBA Finals, and they lost. So they lost in the first round. So that's not always a gimme. But the Celtics offense, I bet you if you redo this survey at the end of the preseason, some of this would flip. Boston's defense is a little bit further behind the offense for sure. Porzingis has admitted as much. He's talked about, he and I saw a couple of these plays in that first preseason game where he hung up a little bit, like he got up a little too high, and he let the guy that he was supposed to be defending get too deep, and either they gave up a rebound or he gave up a pass. So the defense is a work in progress for the Celtics. But maybe by the end of the season, with everybody kind of clicking, when you look at who they think the best defensive players are, you can kind of see who's the best defensive player in the league. 40% say Giannis. Drew Holiday was second at 13. 50% of them say Drew Holiday is the best perimeter defender. Jayson Tatum also gets votes. So, and then when you look at, they asked the question about coaching, who has the best defensive scheme. Joe Mazzulla is in there getting votes as best defensive scheme. So some people in the league see Boston has at least one elite perimeter defender. Somebody around the league thinks Jayson Tatum is up there. They think that Mazzulla is kind of great at designing a defense and defensive schemes. Again, surprising. I would have thought it was the other way around, but that's how the league perceives Joe Mazzulla and this team. So I think overall, the Celtics are right where they're supposed to be, right? Everybody thinks they're great. Everybody thinks they're going to be a top offense. Everybody thinks they're going to be a top defense. So who'll have the league's most efficient offense? The Boston Celtics are fourth. I tell you what, if the Celtics are number one in defense and fourth in offense, that's a team that's going to the NBA Finals. Very likely going to the NBA Finals. That's a championship level team. If you're first and fourth in offense and defense, whichever way you want to split it, teams in the top five win championships. So if Boston is in that top five, they have a good chance of winning a championship. Now, it doesn't always happen, but it's a good chance of happening. So I think the Celtics have a strong expectation and a strong chance to be a really, really good team. Add to this just the last little note here. Who is the best assistant in the NBA? Sam Cassell and Charles Lee both tied for fourth with 7% of the vote. Jordy Fernandez in Sacramento got the overwhelming number of the vote, 31%. Terry Stotts in Milwaukee and Kevin Young in Phoenix were both at 10%. But for Boston that have recognition of two assistant coaches, I mean, think about all of the recognition this team is getting here. Best perimeter defender, another one of their defenders gets votes. Their coach gets votes for defensive schemes. They are top defensively expectation. Fourth offensively is the expectation. It's expectation is best in the East. Expectation is probably going to win a championship. All of this adds up. Boston, this is the year. I hate to build up this kind of, I don't know, expectation. I keep using the word expectation. I got nothing else for it. We're saying it over and over and over and over again. This team is built to win a championship, and this is the year for them to do it. So, I don't know. Go do it, I guess. Up next, the Jayson Tatum stuff. Weirdness when it comes to Jayson Tatum. Weirdness. I'll talk about that in just a second. First, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Jase Medical, and Jase Medical has this awesome thing called the Jase Case. It gets you in your hands 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. The key nowadays is to just be kind of prepared for anything. You kind of don't know what life is going to bring. A lot of people like to go hang out in the outdoors. A lot of people are in heavy weather areas. A lot of crazy weather is just kind of rolling through places that don't normally get that. There are so many different ways, supply chain issues, so many different ways for you to be separated from medical care. With the Jase case, you're going to have those antibiotics that treat 50 plus different infections that you can have in your hand. This way, when something goes wrong, you can get yourself a couple of days pad, 2-3 days pad, whatever you need before you get to medical attention. You don't know if that's going to be the difference between a serious, very serious condition and, hey, good job. You're going to you'll be fine. A couple more weeks of these antibiotics. We'll clean up this wound. Boom, you're done. That's the peace of mind that comes with this Jase case. Go online, fill out a form, you get your prescription, you do maybe a quick call with a board-certified physician. It's doctor-created, it's doctor-approved, and you can get $20 off these life-saving antibiotics right now by using the code LOCKEDON. Go to jasemedical.com, Jase medical.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON, get $20 off life-saving antibiotics. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out the Locked On NBA podcast. When I'm done recording this, I'm going to hop on over to the Locked On NBA side of things and talk to Jake Madison, talking about Victor Wembanyama, talking some more about some of the other things in this GM survey, and just covering the league as a whole. We have the entire league covered on the Locked On NBA podcast, rotating hosts. So check out the show every Monday through Friday. I got the Wednesday show. It's the best show in my opinion, tied with all the others. Thank you for subscribing. Let's get back to the Jayson Tatum stuff, which I think is just, I just can't. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. So let's go to the positive stuff. Who will win the MVP? Jokic, Giannis, Tatum. Jokic 1, Giannis 2, Tatum 3. Okay, 43% for Jokic, 20% for Giannis, 13% for Tatum. Luka's right behind him at 10. Who's the best small forward in the NBA? Jayson Tatum, number 1. Almost half the league believes that Jayson Tatum is the best small forward, better than Kevin Durant. Now, they list Luka in this. Luka's at point guard, Luka's at small forward, whatever. Better than LeBron, better than Kawhi. Tatum seen as one of the elite players, very highly. But then there's these two questions that make me think like, okay, how highly do they actually view Jayson Tatum? Nikola Jokic, number 1, obviously 33%. Victor Wembanyama, second. Okay, 23%. Starting a franchise today? Sure. Giannis, 13%. Luka, 10%. Anthony Edwards, 7%. Also receiving votes: Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oh, there's Jayson Tatum. So we've got, let's see, quick math. That's what, 56, 66, 69, 79. 86% of the league has accounted for the top 5. And that means 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys in the remaining 14%. So Jayson Tatum, seen as the best small forward, seen as 3rd in the league at MVP, yet only a couple of GMs would say, hey, if I was starting a franchise today, I would choose all of these guys over Jayson Tatum. I can see Jokic. I can see all of these guys. Anthony Edwards is the interesting one. I thought Tatum would be fighting for Luka. I thought he'd be fighting in that 10, 12, 13% range. Jokic is number 1 because he's the MVP. Everybody loves the MVP. Wembanyama, if you saw him the other day, I mean, he's just ridiculous, right? So, and he's a kid. Yeah, you want the possibility of 15 years of this guy. Giannis, still elite. Luka, I get it. But, for Tatum to still be like way down there, behind Embiid, behind Curry at this point, like, I understand like Curry is Steph Curry, but he's at the tail end. You're starting a franchise today. You're going to start it with Curry? No. You started with Tatum, right? I don't understand why he's so low. Then there's this. Which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments? Curry's at 40%. Jokic is at 33%. Giannis is at 13%. Luka, 10%. Joel Embiid, 3%. Nobody said Tatum. Tatum does not force opposing teams to make the biggest adjustments. And that is not even, I'm not going to even say surprising. I'm going to even say that that's a little problematic. And this goes to some of the things I've been saying about Tatum throughout the course of the summer, where he still has another level to reach. You know, ESPN put out their little version of this and talked to scouts and other people around. It was a smaller version. And they kind of thought similarly of Tatum too, that he's really good, but is he going to be the guy that you start your franchise around? Like, sure, if you gave him, if you gave me Jayson Tatum, sure, I'd be happy, but these other guys are ahead of him. That's my impression of another GM. But it's hard. It's kind of hard to blame them because Tatum has this now track record of lots of Eastern Conference finals, a trip to the NBA finals, nothing to show for it. Where's that leap? Where's that next thing? Where, if you haven't gotten to the title yet with all of these chances, are you? I can see a GM saying, like, I have questions about that, because you look at who you're starting: a champion in Jokic, a champion in Giannis. Wembanyama is, you can project championships there, but a freak that could be. So your top two are champion. Two of your top three are champions, and one is a guy that's just a generational type of player. Luka hasn't gotten that deep, and you can make excuses, right? Anthony Edwards plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, yeah, of course he's not going to have success. He plays for the Timberwolves. Tatum, this perception that's out there, this is the year for Tatum to change his perception. This is the year for Tatum to go out and be like, hey, you should be starting a franchise with me. You should be making adjustments to stop me. And I think this is the year where Tatum has to take that big step forward. I was on the radio today in Maine, and I was talking about this concept. This is a very regular type of perception of players in the NBA in general. I'm not saying specifically Jayson Tatum or only Jayson Tatum, although I'm sure Tatum kind of fits into this mold. You come into the league, your first thought in your mind is, I got to prove myself. So you spend 1, 2, 3 seasons trying to prove yourself. Then your contract's coming up. Your focus turns into, if you've proven yourself, now let me get my money. Let me get that contract. And now Tatum has gotten that contract and will get another one. There's zero doubt that Jayson Tatum will get this next contract, a supermax deal. He'll sign this extension next year. It might have been a little unclear on the rules when it comes to the supermax, but basically he can sign an extension with that drops his player option. So he'll basically drop that player option. The extension will take over from there, and it'll be a $350 million player option, 330, something like that. I'm sorry, extension. So he's getting his money. So he's proven himself. He's getting his money. Now it's time to win. And it's not that they haven't wanted to win. It's not that young players don't want to win. It's just that younger players tend to want to win it their own way. And now you get to a certain age where it's like, okay, my way hasn't worked. Now let's try it a little bit more of a variation of my way. And I think this might be where Tatum is. That's the part of the career where he's at. That it can't just be you doing your thing and only your thing, and I play how I play. Like, you got to adjust and really make your teammates better. That's, I think, where Tatum is. So, yes, lots of love for him. A chance at an MVP. The narrative is there. Best small forward in the NBA. That's huge. But get to that next level. Get to that next level where front offices think coaches have to make adjustments for you. Get to that next level where front offices say, give me Jayson Tatum to start my franchise right now. Let's see where we are a year from now and how many votes he gets. If he gets the votes next year, if I'm sitting here a year from now saying that Tatum is getting all of these votes for starting a franchise and all of that stuff, it's because he had an MVP level season, and the Celtics won a championship. Up next, Brad Stevens. Lots of love for Brad Stevens. We'll talk about that next. First, today's show also brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Basketball is here. There are lines out there for preseason games. If you're so inclined, go for it. It's the NFL season. We're heading into like phase 2. The first turn is here in the NFL season. Bet against the Patriots. Whatever it is, just bet against the Patriots. I think that's where you're going to make your money because they are a mess. Bet $5. All you got to do is bet $5. If you're a new customer, that gets you $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Guaranteed $200 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, now's the time. The app, very easy to use, tons of options. Yeah, you can play spreads and player props and over-unders and all of that stuff. You have futures, you got win totals, you got all of that stuff. So check it out, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. Just ask you if you're going to gamble. Please gamble responsibly. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd has you covered. If you want to win your league, you got to listen to Locked On Fantasy Basketball. He's got all the little tips, little tricks, all the little guys that are going to be getting action that you might not have thought of, especially during the season. You know, over the course of the season, there are ads, there are drops, there are your guys get hurt, and you figure out, like, Josh is great at figuring out which guy is going to make a contribution or which guy might be overrated and you avoid. So check him out, Locked On Fantasy Basketball, wherever you found this podcast. Brad Stevens gets plenty of love in the offseason moves. Which team made the best overall moves this season? 23%. Boston Celtics tied with Milwaukee, 23%. Milwaukee obviously got Damian Lillard. Boston swooped in and took Drew Holiday. Great move. And obviously the Porzingis deal is there. In fact, which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact? Dame is number 1 at 47%. Drew Holiday at 13%. And Kristaps Porzingis tied for 4th at 7%. Bradley Beal's in the middle. So that's a very nice acknowledgement from the rest of the league. This is something that may get Brad Stevens the Executive of the Year award. Who's the most underrated player acquisition? Marcus Smart in Memphis is number 1, but also receiving votes. Holiday and Porzingis are in there. The Marcus Smart Porzingis trade is the second most surprising move behind the Holiday Lillard deal. So, Brad Stevens getting a lot of love, and hey, he did have a really good offseason. The one thing about Brad Stevens is, man, he is not afraid. He is not afraid to make a move. And if I had one criticism of Danny Ainge, it's the thing I've been saying that a lot of people say about Danny. He needs to win trades at such a degree that he's not going to do it unless it's such a slam dunk domination. Like the trade for Rudy Gobert. Like that trade that sent Gobert to Minnesota, God, fleecing. It changed the league. Like the league looked at that deal and was like, okay, whoa. We can't be giving up these hauls. Like all these pick swaps. Like we've got to reset what we think the value of these picks are, because this trade is so outrageous that we just can't keep moving forward that way. It really was. It's like a spending spree. Someone gave Danny Ainge such an outrageous amount of money, an outrageous haul, that everybody's like, whoa, we got to check ourselves. So, but that's Danny Ainge's thing. Brad Stevens is not like that. He's like, okay, what deal makes us better? Now, could he hold out in certain instances, maybe fight for a little bit of a better deal? It's debatable because I'm not in that front office. I don't know. The threshold of what he's willing to do is definitely different than Danny Ainge's. If Danny Ainge was running this team, if Danny came back for one season, return One off season only. Danny Ainge plays the hits. What does this season look like? Do they make the move for Porzingis? I don't know. I don't think so. Do they make the move for Holiday? Maybe. I don't think so. I think Brad has the guts to make these tough decisions. And he sees the price. He sees it's like in a negotiation, if we're trying to get to a middle ground, he doesn't see the value of fighting for an extra $5 in a negotiation, right? Like if I'm negotiating, like you're going to buy a car and the car is a $30,000 car and you're trying to get it down to 2026 and they get you get close and you say, hey, I want it at 26. I'm willing to pay 27 and they get down to 27 and that's it. Are you going to say, well, I wanted it at 26 and I'm going to fight? Just make it 26,750. Is that extra 250 going to make a big difference? Is that pissing somebody off? Is that the risk of them saying, you know what, forget it. We're done with you. We're going to go to these guys because they're not going to be jerks about it. I'm not calling Danny Ainge a jerk. I'm saying that the perception. So I think Brad gets to like within his zone of saying, this is the zone where I'm comfortable making this deal. The other team gets in there. Maybe you make like one extra. Hey, what about this? Just, and the other team says no. You go, okay, you know what? We're fine with it. We're cool. We're good. I think that's basically where Brad Stevens goes. He gets to a place where he's comfortable. He makes the deal and you move on. So, and it takes guts because you're willing to move important players, and it's not a guarantee. It's like these moves are not guarantees, but he saw an issue. He went to correct it, and he paid what he considered to be a fair price. So, kudos to Brad Stevens. I think that he's doing a great job, and it's kind of interesting because you see him as a coach, and I don't know if he's going to go back to coaching. I've said this on the podcast before. When both of his kids are in college or out of college and kind of on their own, and he's got an empty nest, I am curious if he'll have an itch that he wants to scratch to get back into coaching. And I don't know if that's going to be the case, or maybe he's just so happy doing what he does here and he's happy in Boston and he's got a good gig and he's pretty good at it. If the Celtics win a championship or two, then he can kind of do this for as long as he wants. So, but I'm curious what his future is going to be, but I think he's good at this. And I thought he was a great coach. I really think that Brad Stevens is a very, very good coach, and he might be a better GM. One last thing, just since I have a minute to which active player will make the best head coach someday. Drew Holiday is mentioned in there. Chris Paul, number one at 20%. I disagree with that vehemently. I completely disagree with that. Maybe in college coach, maybe not in the NBA. Mike Conley, I can see that. Garrett Temple, I have no idea. TJ McConnell, maybe. Drew Holiday, possibly, sure. And he's at 7%, tied with Fred VanVleet. Also receiving votes, doesn't matter. Someone said Nikola Jokic. Don't think so. He's going to be out of the NBA. When he's done. He's going to go hang out with his horses, and that's going to be it. Somebody said Grant Williams, which is an interesting idea. I think he could be a good coach. No one mentioned Marcus Smart, and I feel like Marcus Smart has the chance to be an incredible coach. He'd be my vote here every single time. I think if Marcus Smart wants to be a head coach, he can be a tremendous head coach because one of his strengths is knowing everything that's happening on the floor. And when you know everything that's happening on the floor, you can coach everything that's happening on the floor. When you listen to him explain basketball, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. He's incredible at it. And I don't know if he's going to want to because he's going to be a super rich guy. But if he has that passion and he wants to coach, then I think he can do it. I think he should because He'd be great at it. All right, Celtics tomorrow play at Philly. So this is the Wednesday show. Tomorrow's the Thursday show. Friday we'll wrap up the week with kind of a look back at everything, maybe answer a couple of mailbag questions. So make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed at this point, make sure you're subscribed right now. Get whatever podcasting app. Hop onto that YouTube page. Would love to have you there. Get into the comment section. Let me know what you think. And if you are an everydayer, if you're here with me every Monday through Friday, make sure you're spreading the word. Tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. Right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.